There we go.
All right. Thanks, guys, for coming. I don't know really why you're here. If I was in college, I wouldn't come to something like this. I'd be home playing video games or making games. So I felt like this was kind of like, I was thinking about how to talk about game development. I really wanted to talk about entrepreneurship, sort of broaden the scope. And it reminded me of this clip from The Office where they have this business seminar, and Creed Bratton is a genius, and he really kicks off this seminar really, really well. So let's hear what he has to say.
2 eyes, 2 ears, a chin, a mouth, 10 fingers, 2 nipples, a butt, 2 kneecaps, a penis. I have just described to you the Loch Ness Monster, and the reward for its capture? All the riches in Scotland. So I have one question. Why are you here?
Okay, but that's a really good question. This isn't like a cliche question. I'm seriously want to know why you guys are here, other than your teacher told you or your professor told you needed to come. Does anyone want to tell me why you're even here? Yeah, what's up?
2 reasons. One, because I really like your game. It's
Thanks.
Amazing.
Appreciate it.
And 2, because I also like game development and software programming.
Great. Cool. Anyone else? Yeah?
I've been playing video games since probably I could walk.
Yeah, me too.
Afterward, and I'm from Savannah with some friends and my wife from Savannah.
Cool.
And we're really interested in games, especially indie game development, and creating a community of game developers in Savannah.
Sweet.
And the low country.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, what's up?
I'm a teacher. I teach at high school level, and I teach game design development, so I always like hearing from people that actually have released games and see what knowledge I can bring to my students.
Cool. Okay, one more back there.
I just want to see how a person gets motivated to create a game.
Yeah.
Just like how does it begin? A little spark. What happens?
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, I'll try and do better than Creed in answering your questions and why you're here. So let's just start with the trailer for Pinstripe, which is, as Brian was saying, or Dr. Canada was saying, it's a game I made completely alone for 5 years. And it's about an ex-minister who goes to hell to look for his little daughter. And, oh, by the way, it was released on Steam in April this year. And it's coming to console in January. So coming up pretty soon here. Okay, so how did I get there, right? I mean, who am I? What's my personality? Well, just a quick rundown of who I am and why someone like me wants to make a game like that. Really, I've always dreamed of making games ever since I was like 4 years old, I think. It's funny, I just watched this home video of me and my 3 older brothers opening up a Super Nintendo on Christmas, and we freaked out and screamed, "Super Mario!" Does anybody remember Christmas morning that way? Yeah, most of you probably. But I'm married. That's my wife. Her name is Kelsey. I got a baby on the way. Super excited. She's going to be born in January. I am a highly motivated person. I've always been really, really motivated. I really love creating worlds. In a way, I like to play God. And I love South Carolina. I love this state, and I've lived here my whole life. I've lived in Greenville, South Carolina my whole life. And I don't see myself leaving anytime soon. So this is a really cool logo, isn't it? Yeah? You guys like that? No. I graduated from Clemson, but believe it or not, I was actually enrolled in USC during the summer, my senior summer, and I was about to go to USC, and then I wanted to stay. I decided I wanted to stay with my girlfriend at the time, who's my wife now, in Greenville. So I went to Greenville Tech for a year, which was amazing, and I was really surprised how awesome that was. Transferred to Clemson, graduated with a degree in graphic communications, which is basically printing and inks and stuff like that. Has nothing to do with game development. And I did this, did what you're supposed to do and became a graphic designer. Tried to use my degree when I graduated in 2013 and worked for a marketing agency, which is a great agency called Vantage Point Marketing. So during the whole, school, college experience and the whole career experience, I didn't really do what I was told to do. I was told that I need to go party and have fun at school and study and party, right? That's what you're supposed to do. But during that time, I actually would go to the basement of Clemson University's library with my laptop, and I would make games. That was my best friend, right? Those are the people that I hung out with, my computer. And I was really passionate. That's when I first started working on Pinstripe, which was the basement of Clemson University. And as Dr. Canada was saying, when I had my full-time job, I'd work on the game in the mornings, which was tough. Had to wake up early in the morning, sometimes 5:30 in the morning, work for an hour. I'd schedule an hour, and then I'd go sit in traffic, go to my day job, work through lunch, and then when I got home, I'd try and be a good husband, hang out with my wife a little bit, and she supported me through this process, but I would go into my office right after dinner and work for another hour. I kind of had a vision. I knew what I wanted, and I just felt like I had to do it at that time. Well, it got to a point, you guys can probably imagine, I was pretty burnt out. I was tired, and I knew that it wasn't sustainable to work that much. I think I was working, 60 hours maybe a week. I can't calculate it right now, something like that. And I knew I couldn't keep doing that. So I launched a Kickstarter, but I didn't tell my boss, I didn't tell anyone at my job about my Kickstarter campaign. It's funny, my boss at Vantage Point Marketing is actually one of my mentors now. And he asked me, he said, "How come I never knew about the campaign?" And I said, because I didn't want to put in my 2-month notice to get basically quitting a job when I didn't really know if the Kickstarter campaign would actually be successful. So I sort of kept it on the down low with Vantage Point Marketing, didn't tell them about it. And I remember I was on my lunch break in April, and I spent 2 months working on this campaign, the video and the artwork and the design and the whole reward system. And I was in the basement of Vantage Point Marketing, and I was hidden in a dark corner eating my lunch, and I opened up my laptop, and I was really nervous, but I clicked the launch button, and me and my wife were texting when I launched the campaign, and it was the coolest feeling ever because I could watch the numbers rising, and we had gotten $6,000 in an hour. And my wife was like, "We're going to do it. We're going to hit your goal." The goal was $28,000. And I was kind of skeptical. I was like, "I don't think we're going to do it." Well, we hit $20,000 easily in a day. And believe it or not, in a month, we raised over $100,000. And I say we, it was just me. But I just speak plurally sometimes. Makes me feel better. So $100,000, really, really lucky, really blessed to have that happen. So that's kind of what started the whole train ride, really. Over 30,000 units have been sold for Pinstripe, which really excited about. And over 7 million plays for my work online. And a lot of my work is Flash games, so that the free Flash game market really accounts for a ton of those plays. Obviously, Pinstripe was just released, but this game is called Once Upon a Coma. This is my next game. In some form or fashion, both of these games are going to release. I can't really say which platforms. It's kind of like an NDA right now, but PlayStation, Steam, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch are all among the platforms both of these games will release on in some way. So really, really excited about those platforms. It's a really cool experience to be able to partner with all those platforms. The coolest thing happened when I released Pinstripe. The Washington Post, Time Magazine, Vice's Waypoint, Rolling Stone's Glixel, they loved the game. Time Magazine gave it a 5 out of 5. Washington Post gave it an 8.5 out of 10. So that was like really the coolest week ever to see all these people, all these really high-profile publications enjoy Pinstripe. Pinstripe's also been nominated for a bunch of stuff. Hadn't won anything yet, but a lot of nominations. South by Southwest, it was gaining awards. Reboot, Indie Bits, which is actually in Columbia. You guys should take a look at that. And Indiecade, back in 2013 when I was working on the early alpha stage of the game. Once Upon a Coma was at DreamHack. It was featured there, and also the Indie Mega booth at PAX. So Once Upon a Coma is already getting some energy and some sort of grassroots marketing behind it, which is really cool. It's not all sunshine, okay? So this review was like the bane of my existence for a week when Pinstripe launched. 5 out of 10 from GameSpot. It was funny because I had a friend who was like, who had inside information about GameSpot, and they messaged me. They said, "Thomas, GameSpot loves Pinstripe. They think it's awesome." And I was so excited. I waited a week for this review to come out. I waited for this, so I got a 5 out of 10, and it was such a cool experience though, because after I was done being upset with myself or resenting the article, I've learned to agree with the article and learn from it. And that's something we'll talk about, which is figuring out how to take criticism for not only your work, but who you are, what your identity is in. Pinstripe was very much a part of me. And to have someone give me a 5 out of 10 was tough, but it was really important. And I actually reached out to the writer, Jeremy, and we had a really cool phone conversation. And he helped me understand why he gave me a 5. So it was a good experience. But the most important thing is Steam. Okay, Steam is where PC, Mac, and Linux games are sold. It's like the app store for PC, Mac, and Linux. It has a user score of 9 out of 10. So I'm really, really thrilled. This is, I think, the most important thing. Getting a 9 out of 10 on Steam, and that was the end goal for Pinstripe. I don't know why that's there. Sorry. I'm actually not, I don't really care about schools, to be honest, but I thought that'd be funny. Okay, let's watch the trailer for Once Upon a Coma, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of the presentation. So, really quick, sorry. Once Upon a Coma is about a little boy named Pete who finds himself in a strange coma wonderland. so that's Once Upon a Coma, and thank you. Thank you. So this game's really fun to make because I'm working with a publisher in Denver, Colorado. They're called Serenity Forge. They're a small publishing studio, and they're actually doing all the development work for this game. So I get to do what I do best. It's not going to take me 5 years on this one because I get to do the illustration, the music, the story, and game design, but I don't have to code the thing. So that's really exciting. Thrilled about that project. Okay, so let's get into the meat of the presentation, and that is, I think this is a really good question, and I asked myself this all the time, which is, how does an entrepreneur based in South Carolina reach the world and make money? And I specifically mentioned South Carolina because this isn't really a place you think about, right, when you want to make your idea explode and share it with the world. But deep down, I think I kind of believed I could. What does a state have to do with your ideas, right? Part of me feels like I need to move to California or Seattle or Austin, Texas to make the world see my work. But I believe that you can do it from anywhere, and I believe that South Carolina can be the place that you do it. These are really cheesy topics right here, but I'm going to cover them. And they seem cheesy, but they're actually so important. I heard about them all the time in college. Knowing how to network and specialize and knowing how to focus on your dreams, but they're so important. These are the pillars to entrepreneurship. And I hope that I can communicate them in a way you've never heard, and I hope you don't glaze over, especially when we talk about networking. I hate the concept of networking, but we'll talk about it. Okay, another office quote. This is a brilliant man, isn't he? He's amazing. He says, "You miss 100% of the shots you don't take." Wayne Gretzky. But I love the quote from Wayne Gretzky, which is, you do. You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. And this is related to the first pillar of being a good entrepreneur, which is understanding how to nourish your dreams and how to pursue them and to believe in your dreams. And I know it sounds cheesy when you say believe in yourself or believe in dreams, but hopefully I can make that more clear to you that it's actually really important. So let's be transparent. Anybody want to be transparent and tell me your dream? Anybody have a dream? Yeah, buddy.
Software and hardware engineering.
Awesome. Software and hardware engineering. Amazing. Anybody else? Yeah.
Release a game.
All right. Release a game. Sweet. Yeah, back there.
Create a game where the story's different every time you play it.
Oh, that sounds cool. Like a choose your own adventure story or something. Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah.
I want to solve the problem with indie game discovery.
Oh, man. Tell me about it when you find it. That's amazing. Solving the problem of indie game discovery. One more, anybody? Anybody have a childhood dream that they had, that they potentially lost? Yeah?
I want to make a Batman super suit like Batman.
Yes! I saw a hand back there. You sure? Yeah. Okay, my dream when I was a kid is I wanted to be a storyteller. I remember I was sitting around the fire at a campground with my friends, and we were like 10 years old. And I remember I started just telling a ghost story. And it was probably a terrible, stupid story, but I thought it was so cool. And I thought, that's what I want to do with my life, is I want to tell stories. And I took that dream and I turned it into my career. Okay, so this is a quote not from Wayne Gretzky, but me. When we were kids, we would dream. Now we just want stuff. Okay? And we'll get sort of flesh that out in just a second. I think understanding the distinction between dreams and desires is crucial to building a meaningful business. It's crucial to being a meaningful entrepreneur. You have to understand the difference between what your desire is, what your short-term, shallow desires are, of climbing the ladder or making more money, and distinguishing that between what your dream is. Okay, when we're kids, we dream. When we're adults, we just want stuff. Okay, so here's dreaming, right? This happy kid, he's got shamelessness, he's fearless, he's never really experienced failure. And those things result in dreaming, okay? Some kids have tough lives and they don't dream. But I think a lot of us can relate to feeling dreams when we are kids. These things result in being able to express yourself, because why not express yourself when you don't really have any shame? Why don't you be adventurous when you don't really have any fears, right? If you've never failed, then any idea can be a reality, okay? That's what kids do. It's amazing. So over here in the black here, dreams are something that you share, and shares in caps for a reason, okay? You share your gifts. You want to share your personality. You dream of sharing your beliefs. You dream of sharing your passions. And you dream of sharing your culture and your family. Okay? Then you graduate college, and your dreaming converts into desire. And it's really sad. See, so many adults think this way. Over in the black. Desires are short-term solutions to fake needs that you get. Okay? So as adults, you want to get money or get sex or get stuff or get approval, get safety. And this isn't me making fun of adults. I can relate to these things because when I graduated college and got married, suddenly desires started taking over dreams. And I had to fight really, really hard to remember what my dream was. Okay? So when you're an adult, suddenly these things start to show up. They actually show up in middle school, really. You feel ashamed, right? Your cheeks start to burn when you give a presentation. Or you have fear. Or you actually fail at things, right? When you're a kid, lots of kids don't. Lots of kids fail, but most of the time, they don't really know what failure is. So we fail a lot, and then suddenly we want to avoid failure. We want safety because we're afraid of stuff. We want to be anonymous because we don't want to be found out. And I know how that feels, and I'm sure you guys feel that way a lot, which is what's it called? The imposter syndrome. I don't know if you've ever heard that, but a lot of people feel like they're going to be found out, that they're fake. And that all comes back to shame. Okay? So it's a sad thing when you become an adult, when you graduate college, and you get a boss, and there's a ladder to climb, and there's a paycheck, and you want to make more money and get more benefits. It's a really sad thing to see dreams start to disintegrate. And college is a really special time because, at least for me, my dreams were flourishing, and I was really excited. And I felt like I could change the world. The moment I stepped out of the college atmosphere into the job market is when I realized that maybe my dreams aren't actually a real thing. And shame and fear and failure became part of the majority of my mental state. So in conclusion about dreams, dreams are really seeds that are planted by children, but adults are the only ones who can really nourish them. And I'm not talking about parents nourishing their children's dreams, although we can talk about that if you want. That's a great thing. But what I mean is dreams are seeds planted by children. When we were kids, we would plant our dreams. We had things we wanted to do, things we wanted to be. Wanted to be Superman, or we wanted to do something great, change the world. And now that we're adults, now that we're about to be like fully functioning adults, it's up to ourselves, our mature selves, to actually look back at the seeds we planted when we were kids and do something with them. So many adults, so many people I know, they have the seeds planted. They were excited about something when they were a kid. And it's so crazy to see them just turn and walk away from the things that they were passionate about when they were kids. And I don't know why they turn away. Maybe it's their parents. Maybe it's their professors. Maybe it's their friends or family. I think it's Tim Ferriss. Tim Ferriss wrote a book called The 4-Hour Workweek. I think he mentioned this. Basically, people that suck dreams out of you are called energy vampires. They basically take your dreams away from you. The reason why they do that is because they did the same with their dreams and they want you to feel the same. It's a sense of jealousy. So don't let people tell you that something that you desired is silly or unwise or fake or not realistic. So learn how to nourish your dreams and practice, okay? Just basically visioneer. Think about what you want to achieve, whatever you want to do in your dream and in your job. And this is especially true with game development. Envision the world that you want to build. Practice it and make it happen. This is a really good book. It's called Think and Grow Rich. This is what made my whole game studio become a reality. Basically, I read this book, and in the book he said to write out what you want to achieve, stick it on your wall, and make it happen. and I wrote, and I told my wife, I showed it to her, and I said, this is going to happen. I wrote, I will make $60,000 by releasing a beautiful, unique game. I put it on my wall, and that was easily more than double. And it was because of that book. So I would highly recommend reading that book. I think I read it through Audible, listened to it through Audible. So it's a great book. Okay, let's talk about specialization. And this is specifically really, really important with game development, but it's also important with entrepreneurship. Okay, here's a bunch of Where's Waldo people, okay? When everyone wants to be special, no one is. And I think this image really says it well. If everyone wants to be Waldo, no one really is, right? So this is a chart with games released on Steam. And again, Steam is where PC games, Mac games, and Linux games are released. It's like the App Store. Look at this. So in 2009 and 10, which is basically when I started Pinstripe, less than 500 games a year were released on Steam, and it just exponentially increased to that's 2016. I don't know what 2017 looks like, which is when Pinstripe was released, but it's discouraging. You see, like 5,000 games, almost 5,000 games were released in 2016. So how does an indie game, when 5,000 games were released, how does it stand out? Another question is, so what sets your brand apart in a world where everyone wants to be different? And it's a really good question. It's especially important now in a world where everything is digital. Everyone is competing for ad space. Everyone is competing to get noticed. All on your phone, on your tablet, on your computer. So many companies are competing for visibility. So I can only speak for Pinstripe. I don't really know what makes your specific idea, what you want to do and achieve, stand out. But with Pinstripe, I realized in the basement of Clemson University that I was going to specialize in artwork and story. I knew that that's what I was good at, and I wanted to make that happen and make it stand out using the skill sets that I knew I was good at. And I think EGM, which EGM is an online gaming magazine, I think they really sort of reminded me of my initial vision to specialize. They said, as a review for Pinstripe, provided one of the more interesting worlds and better stories I've played in quite some time. So world building, illustration, storytelling. That's what made Pinstripe stand out from the crowd. So I put together this fun video. Basically, my favorite games and why they stood out. And a lot of you will probably know some of these games. Some of them are retro games. In the top right-hand corner, you're going to see the specialty, what it did really, really well. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's the only thing that was done well, but it was certainly something that millions of players across the world saw as something special about the game and made it stand out. On the top left-hand corner is going to be the name of the game. Alright, so as you can see, all of those games had something really unique about them that really stood out. Has anybody played Undertale? Anybody? Okay, yeah. See, that game is it looks so terrible, but it stood out so well. And that certainly made a millionaire for sure. Okay, so do what Shyla says, right? Figure out what your specialty is and just do it. It's funny to say, but I think it's important tonight when you guys get home or to your dorm, try and think about what your specialty is. You might not know it, right now. And if you don't know it, I would say the best advice I can give you is to start throwing stuff at walls and see if it sticks. That's a metaphor. Figure out what you can do, and the only way to do it is to try it. For me, I was lucky enough to understand that I was good at drawing. I was good at drawing in elementary school. But I had to start throwing stuff at walls and see if it would stick. There was a website called Newgrounds.com. Anybody ever go to Newgrounds.com? Yeah, that's where all the middle schoolers would go to do bad stuff. But that's where I would upload a lot of my content and get reviews and see comments from various people across the world. And I started to figure out what I was good at, what I wasn't good at, where I needed help, and where I should focus. All right. I do not like this term, but we need to talk about it. So networking is the third pillar of being a good entrepreneur, and for me, making a great game and actually selling it with the world. In college, the term networking made me want to cry. It really, really did. When my professors would talk about it, when we would have to go to networking events for internships and stuff, it would turn my stomach. Phrases like trade shows or luncheons or have a good flight or I'll pencil it in, let's keep in touch, or what everyone's really saying when they shake your hand is give me your money. That's what these networking events sometimes are all about. And that's not really networking. And sometimes it really is kind of a charade. A lot of the events that you'll find yourself going to in your career are going to feel like a charade. So I want to talk about what networking really is, or at least what it's meant to me. Networking is really about making friends with people who help each other out. And it sounds cheesy, but it makes networking really, really fun when you realize that a CEO or a publisher or an internet celebrity is someone that you can actually go get a beer with. Members of the press, industry veterans, or even up-and-comers like yourselves. That's really what networking is all about. Now, these people, a good question to ask is, does anyone want to guess what all these people have in common? Nobody? Anybody?
They're people.
They're people, yes. They have influence. They have influence. And that's especially important. If you can find someone to sit on their shoulders, that's really how someone from South Carolina can get noticed, how their work can get noticed. I'd say this is probably the most important thing that I've learned in the last 10 years of making games. Sitting on someone's shoulders, but genuinely caring about them and being their friend. If you just reach out to these successful people and are clearly trying to just sit on their shoulders, it's not going to work. You have to build a relationship with them, become friends with them. In my case, friendship is formed solely through email. Just asking these people for their advice, for them to mentor me, and to just see what they think about my work. It was that simple, and that's how the relationship was formed. So this is just one of them. This guy is named David Perry, and he is an incredible guy, super nice. Took me out to lunch. He lives in California, and took me out to lunch, told me tons of really great advice, and he is actually the creator of Earthworm Jim. Anybody played Earthworm Jim? Yeah, he made Earthworm Jim. Brilliant guy, and he also made the Aladdin game. I think it was on Sega Genesis. There was 2 of them. He made the one on Sega Genesis. It's just some more people that I've been able to meet. Brian Fargo, he made the Fallout series. Dan McNeely, who is the CEO of my publisher, Armor Games. Tom Fulp, which owns Newgrounds.com. These are all people, not that I met because my parents knew them. They're people that I reached out to in an email. I just said, hey, what do you think about my game? I'd love your advice. I'd love you to mentor me. They offer priceless advice. And honestly, they do connect you with more people of influence and honestly potential funding. It's not all about funding, but that is an important part in entrepreneurship and especially indie game development. So I asked Dr. Canada if I could do this, but if anyone's in his class, I'd say a good homework assignment for tonight is to think of 10 people who you find influential. Now, if you're really influenced by like Brad Pitt, good luck reaching out to him. But I would say, think of 10 people who maybe have millions of dollars, have success in their field, and I dare you to reach out to those 10 people. And right in the subject line say, I need a mentor. They're going to respond to you. Maybe one, but someone's going to respond. And if you want to be successful in entrepreneurship, this is how you do it. Grow in a friendship with people who truly understand the industry, but also be their friend. That's really the best way to get involved in the industry, especially in a place like South Carolina. More people that you can network aside from with like industry veterans is publishers, okay? So whether you're writing a screenplay, want to make a film, or want to make a game, publishers are really helpful, especially for people who need funding and need distribution, and people like me who are working a desk job, who were working a desk job and needed to get out of that environment to do it full time. Publishers are where it's at. These are a few of the publishers I know, and some of them I work with. Armor Game Studios, Serenity Forge, Team 17, Double Fine, Curve Digital, all across the world. Really great publishers to work with. Publishers really do provide you with resources, funding, and distribution. Now, just a bit of information that I've learned. Some publishers are kind of full of crap. And they have money, but they don't have anything else. They're small studios that have millions of dollars, and they go and they're basically investors, right? What you want to look for are people like Armor Game Studios and Serenity Forge. They're publishers that provide you with resources. They fund you, they give you money, but they also help you with distribution. Things like trade shows, contracts with PlayStation and Xbox, ways to help you market the game and launch it. And this kind of mentality works across the entertainment industry. So I think it's really important to understand where the money is, okay, and where the help is. Okay, so this is me when I found out 4 years later I could just use a publisher and just quit my day job. This is a really strong feeling I had, and I think this is really funny. I like this one. Okay, so this is funny too. Now, we're talking about the press, okay? So the press typically cover what's being covered, even if it's not a high-quality game, right? Even if it's full of bugs and glitches. Now, this game is called Heavy Rain, and it's actually a really good game. But I think this is such a funny gift. But the press doesn't necessarily cover a game because of its quality. They oftentimes will just cover a game because it's being covered. So here's how you get the press involved in your work. Okay. So over on the right-hand side is PC Gamer. They just covered Once Upon a Coma. This was a really special time last week when I saw this. I was really excited because PC Gamer is oftentimes very tough to get coverage with. So these 3 points here is first you need to understand that your product won't sell itself, especially an indie game, and especially an indie game from South Carolina, where you have little connection. Okay. The press also cover what's already being covered. So, thirdly, or the press enjoy covering games they are personally involved in. And that's the golden ticket right there. Therefore, get to know the press on an individual level. Become, again, friends with people of influence. Don't email GameSpot.com, okay, info@GameSpot.com. Don't email them or info@Penguin Publishers. That's not really how you get noticed with these publishers. These individual writers for all of these media outlets are people like you guys and like me. They're young people who oftentimes are freelancing their writing services. They've got a Twitter account, and when you go to their Twitter account, they have a website, a personal website typically, and they're going to have a personal email address on that website. Send them a personalized email. Ask them for advice. Ask them what they think about the industry, about your work. But I think what's really, really important, I learned this probably earlier this year, is it's really important to actually read these people's work, read their articles, and really encourage what you've read. So read it and genuinely encourage what you loved about the article. That's how friendships are made, right? And I think it's important to do it in email as well. This is really important. Short and concise email subject line. like for me, I'll concept like 10 different email subject lines when I reach out to people of influence, and I'll pick the one I think that sticks, and I'll sit on it for a while, and then I'll send it. See what happens. Send your emails, and this is part of your homework assignment. Send 10 emails and see what happens. See if it sticks. Who knows, it could be a really strong relationship that is formed. So I'm going to go through this really quickly here. Basically, the top 4 points here, this is the trail of how I met certain influencers, including PewDiePie and Jacksepticeye and Game Grumps, which are highly influential YouTubers. It all started with what was underlined up there. Asked Tom Fulp for mentorship. So Tom Fulp was the creator of Newgrounds.com, and I emailed him. I said, hey, want to mentor me? And to my surprise, he called me the next day. And that was the first time I spoke to a millionaire. And I was really nervous. I told him on the phone, I'm really nervous. But I think that personal connection and being honest with who I am with Tom Fulp is what really made that relationship flourish. I actually met PewDiePie through Tom Fulp, at least in email form, which was a really amazing experience. PewDiePie was really gracious and wanted to voice act for Pinstripe. And through that, I got the Game Grumps to voice act, and Jacksepticeye to voice act as well, as various characters in the game. So Jacksepticeye, who has like 14 million subscribers on YouTube, actually played Pinstripe when it launched and got 3 million views. That all started with asking someone for mentorship. That's how important and crucial it was. Some people will say, well, YouTubers want to get paid. They want money. And I'm saying that if you grow in friendship with someone, it's not about money. It's just about being friends. Okay, and this trail here is the trail of industry vet influence. Okay, industry veterans. I posted a blog post on Unity's website in 2014. I didn't know that if I was good at posting blogs, but I did it. And that's what led to the mini documentary from Unity, shown at the Game Awards. I used that B-roll footage. That footage was filmed by an incredible company that was flown from Los Angeles to Greenville to film my studio. I said, can I use that footage? They said, yeah. I used that footage in the Kickstarter. The Kickstarter did amazing, and that's how I met the CEO of Armor Games, because he liked the Kickstarter. And we partnered, and he flew me to PAX. And there, I met the vice president of Serenity Forge, which is my publisher for Once Upon a Coma. So, all started with a blog post on Unity's website. It was that simple. And I'll leave, Dr. Kennedy, if you could send this maybe a PDF to your students, and you guys can read through this as well. Okay, so final slide here, and then we can take some questions. As cheesy as it sounds, every little thing can make or break your career as an entrepreneur. Okay, so that's especially true with networking. Every little conversation, every little email you send is really important. Okay, it's almost like the butterfly effect. But it all has to do with stepping out of your comfort zone and reaching out to people who are more successful than yourself. But there is a catch. You've got to create quality work. And that's something maybe I could talk about at another date, is how to make quality work. I love this quote, and I'll close with this. Little by little, a little becomes a lot. Okay, guys. I think we have time for questions. Does anyone have questions?
I'll get us started with some questions. I'd be really interested in hearing about, like, it's one thing to say you're going to do a Kickstarter and put a Kickstarter online, and I don't know if you guys look at Kickstarter campaigns, but a lot of them, they don't engage with you at all. And a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to make a Kickstarter and I'm going to totally get my project funded. Two sides to that is like, well, are you actually going to meet your Kickstarter goal? And then two, you're promising a lot of rewards to people who are funding your project. So my question for you, Thomas, is how do you manage all that? Like how did you figure out what kind of Kickstarter campaign is really going to engage with your core audience, and how are you going to manage providing rewards to a lot of people?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I'm a spiritual person, so I like to think that it worked out outside of myself. But I think it had to do with kind of what we were talking about with using your skill sets that you know you're good at. For some reason, I'm good at storytelling, and my personal story of how Pinstripe was made, of being this 5-year-long journey, and it was really difficult and exhausting. I realized I wanted to use that story, and I figured it would strike a note of some kind in the viewers of the campaign. So I guess I concepted out what I felt would be a meaningful story to tell on Kickstarter. The weird thing I've learned about Kickstarter is people aren't really investing in products. They're investing in people. It's what really separates it from a lot of ad campaigns. People want to support dreams. It's kind of similar when we talk about reaching out to people of influence. Don't reach out to people with influence by showing them your product, because they don't really care. They see enough products every day. We all do. What people don't see a lot is someone advertising themselves, basically standing basically naked. You know, this is who I am. This is my heart. Will you support me? That's how a Kickstarter campaign succeeds. Obviously, there's plenty of campaigns that succeed just because it's a really awesome product. But in the case, again, of some kid from South Carolina, I don't think if I just did a campaign about a product, I don't think it would have been successful. So if you watch the campaign, you'll see that it's a very personal campaign, more about my story than about Pinstripe. Does that kind of answer your question, Dr. Canada?
However you answered was wonderful. Absolutely.
Any other questions? Yeah, what's up?
Do you think it's important to keep up with the newest software, or do you think it's more important to, since you're into storytelling, just to use like the older software and older things to get your story and
well, okay.
across?
So on a technical answer to that is, if you're going to submit your game to like Nintendo Switch or PlayStation or Xbox, they will not let you submit a game that was built on a platform that's even like 3 months old. I may be wrong in the exact time, but I know that, well, maybe it might be like a year. They might be okay with like a year old of software. So with Unity, which is the software that Pinstripe was made on, Nintendo is pretty strict about which version of Unity we're using to export the project. So I would say you're in for a really, really bad week if you wait a year to update your software. And I did that. I had Unity 3.5. I bought, at the time you had to buy Unity, and I spent like $3,000 on Unity. And this is when I was in college. So that was like all of my money. And so I bought Unity 3.5, and I felt like I had to use it, and I didn't want to upgrade and start using their cloud-based service, which was more of a subscription, because I had spent all that money. But the week that I decided to upgrade, it was hell. It was really, really bad. Everything was broken. I remember like half of the game's graphics were purple. I don't even know why. And when I was at PAX, half of the game was broken. So the demo was good, but the rest of the game was purple. And that was a year before we finished the game. So staying up to date on software, I do think it's really, really important. Just upgrade when you can, like right away if you can. Yeah?
Okay, so for your new game, Once Upon a Coma, I was going to say, what made you think of that game?
Yeah. I came up with the idea for Once Upon a Coma when I was a senior in high school in a film class. And instead of doing film work, I would sit on the iMac and I made Coma. I don't know. I think I was telling Dr. Canada, we were talking before the presentation, and I really like to have as much freedom as possible in the worlds that I'm creating. And I think that's really important with just entrepreneurship in general is if you can give yourself as much freedom as possible with your product, you should do it. So for Coma, the world is a coma, so I can pretty much do anything I want. It's a dream world. So I don't have to abide by strict rules of this world in my gameplay mechanics. In Pinstripe, the world is hell, so I can do what I want with hell. And in some of my new games that I'm going to be working on, they'll be more of cerebral games as well. So it gives me freedom. So I think that's why I wanted to make Coma, because it gave me freedom to do what I wanted. One more. Yeah, sure.
Okay, what made you think of Pinstripe, the name Pinstripe?
I'm really into Tim Burton. There's the answer. Yeah, Jane.
So it was a 5-year development.
Uh-huh.
You said there's very difficult, hard time, but
Yeah.
there's times where you felt like you probably wanted to quit.
Mhm.
How did you overcome those problems?
Okay. So, it kind of comes back to dreaming. Like you need if you want to overcome that. How many of you have quit something before, and you kind of wish? How many of you quit something and you wish you didn't? Oh wow, that's everybody. Part of the reason why we quit stuff is because we can't see it. We don't know what we're like doing. Like, can you imagine if we tried to land on the moon, but we didn't really have a visualization of what that would look like? Like NASA didn't really have an idea of what it was going to be. For me, I'd lay awake at night and visualize the moment of launching Pinstripe on Steam. And sure, like there was more like desires, as like we were talking about with adults. Like I desired money and maybe power or people to see my work. But most of it was that dream I had when I was a kid of sharing stories with the world and getting a response. So I think it comes down to visualization, which is a huge topic in that book, Think and Grow Rich. Which is, I think he talks about sitting in a closet and visualizing what you want to achieve. Okay, so let's say you're working on a project, one of the projects you guys quit. If you would have sat down for 2 hours and really visualized what it was that you were making, it's almost like you're watching a movie in your brain. And what is the reward? Then you want to finish it. But if it's abstract and sort of blurry in your brain, you're going to quit. Does that kind of answer your question? Yeah.
Well, your narrative was incredible, and part of
Thanks.
what I'm curious about is how did you want to present that?
The narrative for.
Yeah, as you were making the game, were you already finished with exactly what you wanted to show of your narrative, or was it
Right.
changed all throughout?
That's a good question. The reason why the game took so long is because I didn't know what I was trying to tell.
You're working a day job, it seems.
Well, yeah, but like I didn't understand what concepting was, and this will maybe be another presentation. Concepting is so important. I didn't concept for that game. I wanted to make a game about hell, and it wasn't even about a minister. I didn't know who the characters were. I think I built the entire world of that game without the story being in place. And I released that game, or I submitted that game to a festival called the Indie Game Festival, which is pretty tough to get into. I've never gotten into it before. And the judges were generous enough to respond to the game and give me critique. And they basically took a massive dump on the story of the game and said, like, this is not good. The stories don't make, the characters don't make sense. There's no sympathy with the protagonist, nothing. So what I did was like 3 years into development, I looked up a video. It's a YouTube video about how Pixar writes their stories, how to make a sympathetic or an empathetic character, and how to make your story have a climax. And so I finally, 3 years after starting the game, was when the story became something. That's actually when the story became about a minister in hell looking for his daughter and ultimately some form of redemption. And there's a whole sort of backstory. And but yeah, it was 3 years after, for sure.
It's a lot of illusions.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it's a sort of a metaphorical sort of flashback type story.
It's amazing that it came together like that.
Thanks.
So it's so purposeful and depthful.
So I appreciate that. Yeah.
Mr. Brush.
Professor Brush. Dr. Brush.
Esquire. When you say you're speaking plural and you say we released the game, I think that's a good instinct because your wife was with you the whole time while you're doing your dream.
She made it really happen. But
what were some things that she did right to support you while you were doing
this is good. She's been so supportive, and that's a really good question. I tend to complain, so like after work, I'll just complain about what the day was like, and I can't get this thing to look right, or I'm getting these glitches, or I'm not good at making games. That feeling of insecurity, it's just every day. I never feel confident in my work. I don't feel confident in it now, but I will when I go talk to her tomorrow. She's like a nonsense type person. So when I complain, she's like, stop. It's not like, it's okay, and pat me on the back, tell me I'm going to make a great game. It's more like, stop, you're great. Let's move forward. And that's exactly what I needed through the development of Pinstripe. If she wasn't there, I wouldn't have finished Pinstripe. She in a way like helped me exercise my confidence and believe in who I am. If that makes sense. Cool. Yeah.
Based off of that, how did you figure out that you wanted the character locality or just like a finalization of it?
Yeah.
I wish you could change like anything.
Excuse me. So your question is, how did I decide on the character?
Like how you finalize it.
Yeah. So the character was one of the things that I really understood from the beginning of the game, beginning of the game's development. I really like skinny, spindly legs, like Jack Skellington. I don't know, the idea of like them sticking into the ground like needles is really like always, I don't know, like stuck with me. So I wanted to do something like that. So getting inspiration from Tim Burton is kind of an obvious answer. I think he kind of looks a little bit like me, so maybe there's inspiration from myself. I don't know. But I mean, how many of you have lived in South Carolina your whole life, or the South, really? Okay, a lot of you. The South Carolina is like part of the Bible Belt, so making a character that was religious was like in my blood. For better or for worse, religion is clearly part of South Carolina, and I wanted to make a story about a minister. I thought that would really resonate with me and the whole world, I think. Yeah. Cool.
I had more on, I've never played either of the games. I apologize. My son, though, loves it.
Cool, thank you.
Two things that you pointed out. One was that you had the idea for Once Upon a Coma in high school. Mm-hmm. But you started Pinstripe first. And when you did, well, maybe you didn't.
Well,
you worked on Pinstripe more.
I made Coma, the very first Coma, which was the small Flash game that was free. Then I started working on Pinstripe.
Okay. So Pinstripe was kind of what you pushed forward as far as what became what this is.
Yeah.
When you got the negative review, and I forgot which publication it was that gave it to you the 5 out of 10, yes. And you spoke to the gentleman that gave you that review. Did you take a lot of that input then when you went into Once Upon a Time? And therefore, understanding that Pinstripe's your baby, which do you think is, I don't want to say the better game, but maybe
Once Upon a Coma. Okay. And that's such a good question. That's such a good question. I mean, this is just true in life. When someone critiques you, how on earth can you be completely right and they're completely wrong? It's like impossible. You're a human being. You really know nothing. And so it was really important for me to read that review. After I was frustrated and sort of bedridden, didn't want to get out of bed about that review, understanding this guy's viewpoints on it were crucial. And I certainly took the list of bad things he mentioned, and I'm making sure. Actually, I just have hired or partnered with an intern, and one of my first assignments I gave him was read that article and figure out how we apply that to Once Upon a Coma. and avoid those problems. So that article was really, really important, and I'm appreciative that they wrote it in that way. Dr. Canada.
Along those same lines, so looking at a review from, say, GameSpot that gave you a mediocre review, they appreciate that you saw that value in that. What would be your attitude towards reading comments that people might make on YouTube or on the Steam page for Pinstripe? Do you pay attention to any of that stuff? Or like how do you deal with trolls? People who are just going to say negative things for the sake of just being negative.
I started posting stuff on Reddit, like animated GIFs and stuff. And if you want encouragement on Reddit, you could just forget about it. So first off, it depends on the outlet. Like if you're getting really bad reviews on Steam, then you should start listening to those reviews. If people are being jerks on YouTube or Reddit, a lot of these, they're just kids, A lot of them are just kids who are in class and are mad at their teacher, so they're mad at you. But the reviews on Steam you should really take seriously. I got a couple bad reviews. It's great. It still has a 9 out of 10 on Steam, but I got a couple bad reviews over the week. And at first I was like, this is stupid. And then I realized that they were really good comments, and I need to take that and learn from it. Anyone else? Yes, I think your hand was first.
Do you have any plans to port to mobile, or how are you planning on porting your Flash games to modern technology so that new players can continue to play after the technology dies?
So so porting to mobile is likely for Pinstripe. It's likely. Mobile is tough though. It's so funny because there's swelling bubbles of markets, and if you don't get in those bubbles at the right time, it's a waste of time. So if you're going to get into mobile, you better have a really, 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 really good idea, and really unique, something that really sticks, that has a really strong hook, and you're going to be competing with like Disney and EA, and don't get me started on EA. Yeah, if that answers your question. Yeah?
What was your inspiration behind the puzzles that you made?
In Pinstripe?
Yeah, those like just spread moment.
Yeah. So I'm not a huge fan of the puzzles in Pinstripe, to be honest. A little bit of me made the puzzles to just increase the gameplay length, because if you make like an hour-and-a-half long game and then sell it for $15, it's not a good idea. So I really had to sit down and try and think like, how do we increase the gameplay length and still make it fun? I don't think there was an inspiration for the puzzles. I think they were. Sometimes I would just make them and hope they worked. It's why the game took so long. I scrapped so many puzzles because I didn't concept them out first and prototype them. I would like do all of the artwork and it looked beautiful, but then you actually play the puzzle and it's terrible. I don't think there was much inspiration behind the puzzles, but in Once Upon a Coma, they're all being planned out meticulously. Yeah. Right. And my developer, who's working with Serenity Forge in Denver, his name is Eric, a really good friend of mine. He is holding me accountable to concepting. He's amazingly intuitive in terms of schedules and trying to figure out, okay, are you breaking away from a concept and just going with your instinct? Because for me, that's actually not really good. I shouldn't be instinctual about puzzles. I should be instinctual about music and art. But puzzle design is something I need to learn to concept out, and he's really helping me with that for sure.
Yeah. How have you spent any time maybe giving back to other people on Kickstarter? Have you looked at any of their campaigns and such, seeing as how that's kind of where you got your start?
Yeah, so there's like kind of two ways that you can give back on Kickstarter. I've supported, I think, 4 campaigns, not a ton, but a lot of campaigns. You have people like yourself who say, hey, I have this campaign, will you help support it? And what they mean is they want me to send out a message to my backers about their campaign. And so I've done that a couple times. Yeah. Yeah.
Have you gotten anyone trying to reach you for a mentor or
Mhm. Yeah.
and how have you gone about helping them in the way that you perceive
Typically it's like asking for advice, and I'll email back with some advice. But it is funny. I was talking to Dr. Canada about this. When I do get I get a lot of emails. We all get a ton of emails, and when I get an email saying, "Look at my game," I don't respond to it. I don't look at the game just because I don't have time, and maybe I'm being a little bit selfish. But when I have someone say, "What do you think about this game? Can you give me advice, or can you mentor me?" That's when the conversation starts. So I've answered a couple emails. No one's asked me for mentorship yet. Yeah.
Just your personal opinion as a gamer. What do you think about like all the companies going to microtransactions to try to, fluff up profits?
I don't want to bite my tongue because maybe one day, maybe you have to spend $10 to get out of hell in Pinstripe, which kind of goes against the story. I don't know. I think it's kind of sick, but they're trying to make money. It's kind of the same reason why McDonald's is selling, $1 burgers, which I bought 2 today from McDonald's. They're just trying to make money, and it's a value. I mean, if it's a value to people, like if they're doing it, if people are actually buying this stuff, then it's up to the consumer, right? So I'm more of a kind of a capitalist about that kind of thing. I don't like it, but I'm not going to say it's immoral for these companies to do that. Yes?
Hey, did you have anything to share about specifically making a game that involves religion, even just like kind of like the balancing of it, and like do you have any spiritual warfare like when you were doing it?
So I never want to, when I'm releasing artwork, I never want to lean one way or the other. I don't know if I'll change my vote on that in the future, but I want to tell a story abstractly, and I think that's the most effective way to tell a story. So if you're a Bible thumper and you go and spout off your beliefs to somebody, especially nowadays, it's like the most offensive thing someone can do, right? At least that's how people feel. Or if you don't believe in God and you want to tell people why you don't believe in God, it's the most offensive thing to do, to just say whatever you're feeling, let's say at a party or something. So I think the most effective way now in this sort of modern age, the most effective way to tell someone what you believe is actually, I think, through artwork, in an abstract way. Telling a story almost on a subconscious level so that suddenly someone feels something and they didn't even know that you did that. It's kind of like a sneak attack, sneaking your beliefs into someone else. And again, I'm not saying I'm one way or the other. I'm just saying my goal was to be a little bit sneaky with Pinstripe's story.
Other than Tim Burton, who are your creative influences?
I really like M. Night Shyamalan.
You're just waiting for somebody to ask.
Yeah, I was. And I'm not ashamed of it at all. I don't like The Last Airbender, but I do like Lady in the Water, and I do like The Village, and I enjoyed The Happening, to be honest. But huge inspiration. I love M. Night Shyamalan, mainly because he's taken a lot of risks, and he's on the rise again in terms of popularity. I'm really excited about the sequel to Unbreakable. I can't remember what it's called. Yeah, Glass. I'm really, really excited about that. He's a huge inspiration to me. Yeah, back there.
So do you have any new concepts in the working?
So we're working on Once Upon a Coma still. Yeah, I wrote this when I was at my marketing agency. I would sometimes I'd just go to the restroom and write on my phone, and I would write a screenplay for this story about a schizophrenic kid who goes on an adventure, and I think that might be something that I do.
So bouncing off of that, have you seen M. Night
Yeah, me and my wife went and saw Split, and we love that movie. We love that movie. Yeah, right. Lots of inspiration from that movie for sure. Yeah.
One thing I've seen before is becoming a good game developer is having a well-balanced life. How do you balance your life, and what do you do to relax or decompress from a work day?
Glass of wine. No, that is one thing. But I think my work-life balance was really, really bad when I was working a full-time job, and my wife will attest to that. But I do think that now things have gotten a little bit better. I'll get off around 6 o'clock at night and they'll be done. Work-life balance is so important with creative jobs. It's so important, and I think any boss that's has a team of creative people who is working them like slaves, he's going to get terrible work out of them. Creativity is not something you can just do. You have to be passionate about what you're working on. I think a lot of Pinstripe suffered during the development process. A lot of the creative aspects of it really, really suffered because I was more obsessive and I just wanted to work rather than actually make a product that was really, really cool. So work-life balance, one of the most important things in a creative field. Anything else? Any other questions? Yeah.
So in terms of advice, how do you differentiate between what you think is right and what someone in a high-profile position thinks is right?
I was about to say how much money they have, which is not a bad metric sometimes. I think I wrote an article about this. If you hear it 3 or more times, let's say you say, what do you think about this character design? If you hear 3 separate times that his head is too big or something, take note of it and make a change. But oftentimes, don't listen to your family. I listen to my brother, who's really, really, he's a software developer, and he's really, really into game design and game development. I'll listen to him. But like, let's say your mom says, like, I don't like your script, I don't like your screenplay. That's not someone really you should listen to. Nothing against moms, it's just, I don't know. Listen to people who are in the industry who have done it. Again, like people like David Perry, who made Earthworm Jim. If I didn't listen to him, something's wrong with me, because he's been successful in the industry. His vote counts as 2. But normal peers, if 3 people say something, I usually take the advice. If that makes sense. Any other questions?
How much will what's part come cost?
I think $15. Yeah. Dr. Canada?
I have a question about flow with respect to like the design of your game. As I played Pinstripe, there was a point. Now everybody's experience might have been different, but for me, and I don't remember if it was solving a puzzle or getting the slingshot, or there was some point at which something just clicked, and then like I was just in a zone and just felt compelled to just keep playing this game, and not even look at the clock. How do you design for flow? Is it something you have in mind, or is it kind of an iterative thing you just eventually just figures itself out?
Okay, so I think that I may have fooled you, because I think the music and the visuals were what provided that flow. I think GameSpot is right when people focus on purely the gameplay of a game like Pinstripe. I think they start to see the flaws in the flow. So I actually don't think that there's a good flow in terms of gameplay, but I focus really hard on the visuals and the music blending in and out between scenes. So I'm not saying I tricked you. It's a way in which they kind of, in a way, masked any potential flaws. I see them as flaws. Some people might not see them as flaws. But again, I focused a lot on the visuals and the music.
Well, it was meant to be a compliment.
Thank you. Sometimes I'm a bit self-defeating. The cool thing about plot, though, that I learned is that you can push a player or you can push a viewer of a movie through the film in all of its glory or in all of its terribleness by giving them a mystery to start and then and hopefully revealing that mystery in the end. So M. Night Shyamalan did this really well in The Village, where there's a black box in that film. And you see that black box at the very beginning of the film. And even if you hate that movie, you're going to sit through the whole thing because you want to know what's in that black box, which is a twist, right? It's an M. Night Shyamalan twist. But it's a good, I like the twist. But that's kind of the point of the black box, I think, is to keep the viewer interested in that mystery. So I think that helps flow. Yep.
So as a Christian moving forward, assuming that you're a Christian, do you think you will continue to sneak in that tie of yourself into your game, or are you going to go more mainstream with your...
It's so hard to say. I don't like the distinction between, I do not like the distinction between mainstream and like...
Well, meaning what it's mainstream, like social media, that type of stuff today, these days.
Well, for me, all belief is equal. And if somebody tells a story with a belief, you better do it really, really well. And there's a lot of more religious-focused artwork out there, including film and games. And it's just terrible. And I don't know why there's a distinction between the two. All beliefs can strike a chord with somebody. And regardless of what the belief is, it should be done really, really well. Anything and all things should be mainstream in some way if you want to reach an audience, if that makes sense. Any other questions? Yeah.
Do you do any market research? I know you said that your design process for Pinstripe wasn't intentional, but for your future games, you look at art styles that are really popular, or mechanics or genres, and you just go with what your gut tells you and then try to be intentional from there.
I wish I could say no, it's all from the heart, but there comes a point where you have to pay the bills and make something that sells and keep a studio afloat. There's a point maybe where microtransactions, make sense. For me, I'll try and plan very few things, and do market research. So some of the market research that I've done is, what is my base? And oddly enough, I think my base is, maybe half female. I think female players really love games like Pinstripe. So if that's the case, if that is true, I might target that a little bit more. I don't know. For Once Upon a Coma, we haven't looked into it very much, but I think about it. Any other questions? Yeah.
So now that you're at a place where you could say a dream's come true, are you going to go exponentially now with your dream?
Yeah, so you know that feeling where you're like, if I could just have this, then I'll be happy. Well, it's so funny, like I told my wife, once the Kickstarter campaign did really, really well, I looked at her and I said, honey, this is it. This is it. This is everything. And then I woke up that morning stressed and ready to, do the next thing. So I'm learning to find joy in progress as opposed to joy in results. It's a fun feeling because obviously you're never going to be fully satisfied with any achievement you get. It feels really good for a day. So it's important as humans to realize that you're not going to be happy in results. You need to find happiness in progress, in transition, in change. Any other questions? Thoughts?
Let's give Thomas a round of applause.
Thank you.
I think this was really, really wonderful.
wonderful. I think that I can't overstate the how important it was for, it's nice to have somebody of Thomas's caliber come and speak at USCB, but the message that I think he brings to you guys, I think, was inspirational. Just like these are some of you, regardless of whether you're going to make games for a living, you're going to make something, and I think that from what I could tell from the room and just the fact that the Q&A lasted as long as it did, is a testament to the fact that this kind of message struck a chord with many of the people in this room. Yeah. I have a couple of thank you gifts for Thomas. In fact, one of them became 2, so now I have 3. I have a framed poster promoting the event. But did you hear that crash outside? Well, that was the sound of the glass here crashing. So we have 2 versions of the poster. Whoever went and found another frame at the 11th hour, thank you for doing that. So you can hang one in your studio and hang one on the roof of your car in the bathroom or something. So
thank you.
So there's that, and being that you're here at USCD, I can't let you go away without. You said you don't care about the school thing, but guess what? You're gonna care. We're not gonna let you get away without. And I got you a sweatshirt on purpose because it's cold and you're gonna wear this frequently. So as opposed to a T-shirt that you just wear and you're gonna throw in the laundry. So you look like a large. So
all right.
So I got a medium and a large just in case. But you look like
large
a large.
Is good. Yeah.
Is that good?
Yeah.
All right.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Another round of applause for Thomas.
Thank you.
We'll hang out for a bit. If anybody wants to come and play Pinstripe and or Once Upon a Coma, we'll get these set up for you. So, and I'm sure Thomas will be stick around to ask any one-on-one questions that you might have been a little too scared to ask in the context of an audience. So, again, thank you. I'll be here getting things set up here. So come on down.
Thank you, guys.